What up, nerds? Bujo Jody here. I have been bullet journaling since 2017, and I would like to share my 2022 yearly spreads with you. So, hashtag new year, new me. Very new me, because this is a B5. We got a big boy. I like, a little bit more room for my spreads. So I think we're gonna experiment with this. My last bullet journal I filled up to the very tippy top. So hopefully we'll be able to, combine some pages, squish some stuff down, because I think the last bullet journal I had was a little over 200 pages, and this one is under. I think it's 186 pages. So we are actually going to be using the pre-set up contents page. I usually like to rip these pages out, but last year I did that, and the beginning of my bullet journal kind of came unbound, which was very, very frustrating, especially because everything else about it was fine. So the fact that the couple little pages at the beginning, and I do use my beginning pages, I like to keep track of stuff throughout the year, came undone. It was just driving me crazy. So we're gonna doctor it up a little bit here, give it this sort of classic note paper look to it, and also so that it sort of follows the theme of the rest of my beginning pages. And I don't think I'm going to need this second page, but just for consistency's sake, I have included that. I generally don't. I have, these early pages that I keep track of individually, and then I mostly just put in where the months start and end. I don't really have many other collections just because I've spent so long doing this. I know what I want to use and how I want to use it, so I don't have a whole lot of collections in the middle that I really need to know where they are. So this is mostly just for the aesthetics. Keep everything consistent. So I really don't like these pre-made pages. I don't know why they sell blank notebooks with just a little bit of pre-made pages in the beginning. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, either all pre-made or no pre-made. Pick one. But we're going with this gray for the very beginning contents pages. And like most bullet journals, we have the page listed and then what the contents of that page. So what is on that page? And the very first page here, I think last year I did this numbering on the actual contents page. Or maybe, yeah, actually, no, I am lying. I'm a liar. I did it on the title page. But this year I'm incorporating it into this sort of goals / long-term tasks page, just because this feels like a better place to have it. Because I believe on the pages before this there are no dot grids. So even on that contents page there's no dots there. So I need the dots to number the dots. So this is where these will go. And this has actually been very helpful because it is a different size. So, whole new layout to figure out, how many little boxes I can fit on this one page and how do I fit 7 little boxes for the week, here. So this page will start with my goals. I actually haven't filled all of these in yet because I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with my life or at all. But the bottom here has some long-term tasks, things that I like to keep in mind, but they don't need to be done today. Sort of longer plans / projects that I'd like to do. I had this layout in my previous year as well. So some of these have actually come over from last year. Although I feel like a fair amount of those I just decided either I didn't want to do, wasn't important enough to bring over, or actually accomplish them. So go me. So we're got the same basic, notebook list theme going on here, but just in a slightly different color. Have it pop a little bit. And now we start on the long and tedious part of this, which is the overall calendar. So this is my January to December. I like to keep 1 year per notebook. And while I did start 2017 a little farther into the year, I believe it was either March or May I started in 2017. I definitely have kept each of the years in their own notebooks. So I've got the boxes, which will contain the colors of each month's theme. I don't decide ahead of time what colors those all are. I actually used to figure out my color coding because it was like 1 color per month. But now I sort of multi-color themes, and I decide right when I set up my months what theme I would like to have. And little mini calendars for each month. This is the part where your hand cramps. I've seen people do stamps instead of writing this all down. One thing that's an issue with me is that I like my weeks to start on a Monday. And I'm sure that there's stamps that I can find for that. But I think I am also working off a calendar that starts on a Sunday. So that's always fun to sort of translate. But I keep my whole notebook consistent with my week starting on a Monday. So at least within the notebook it's consistent. So that is helpful. And these little mini calendars I do use, and I do use for setting up new months, for extra little calendars later in the book. So as much as they are probably the most annoying and tedious part of this yearly setup, they are very much needed, and I couldn't imagine setting up my bullet journal without them. So a necessary evil. Or if not evil, annoyance. So here we have the first 6 months of the year. We'll do a little cleanup. And then move on to the second 6 months of the year. Now you notice there's a lot of blank space beneath the calendars. Those are where I put all my friends and family's birthdays, significant days where, say, my Amazon Prime is due, or I have a doctor's appointment or something like that. I'll fill all those in a list right below, and generally I will color in the dates on the calendar with the respective month's color theme. So that's another thing that I do when I set up each month that you guys don't really see because I already have personal information on these spreads. Plus it's a little strange to just be flipping back and forth in a video. I hadn't quite decided to do this at this time, but I do have at the very bottom of each column, I have a section where I write down my financial totals. So each month I have certain totals that I keep track of, and so I actually aggregate those in these spreads so that I can see from month to month and, compare apples to apples. I have also decided to keep track of days that I am and am not working and I should be, sort of a list of the holidays that are afforded to me, the vacation days that I am taking, any sick days that I take, and then any extra days that I work. One of my goals is to only be working in the hours in which I should be working and on the days that I really should be working. Gotta have some work-life balance. So I have been keeping track of those as well at the very bottom of each of these columns. And those actually get filled in when I'm doing my monthly setups. Almost done with the year here. And this is definitely one area that, because there's so many little details and it's kind of monotonous what you're doing, I have definitely messed all of these dates up before. So there's no shame in the game. Do what you gotta do to fix everything. I believe this year I did it all right on the first try, so go me, very proud. And now we are moving on to all of my financial spreads. This is the yearly financial spreads. So these are also, aggregating a lot of stuff for my different accounts. These also, because I have this bigger notebook, I have the B5 now, I've sort of, compressed a lot of spreads that I had in my 2020 yearly. So I think I have mostly the same spreads. They're in slightly different places. They're all very, very similar. We are using this sort of same setup where we have the notebook looking coloring with the darker color highlighting the title row. And then each sort of little grid has some sort of representation next to it. So for this first one, which is my slush fund, so the idea behind that is I have a savings account where if I'm putting some money away for things that I'm going to be doing within the next year. So vet fees, like renter's insurance, stuff like that. So like bigger bills that are going to come up, but that I'm putting stuff away for. So this is an account that's not just going to go up. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. I'm saving for Christmas. I'm, doing this, but it's something that's very immediate. But I do like having a separate account for it, just so I don't have all of my money in checking. And so that's why this grid has a graph next to it, so that it's allowed to go up and down. It's not just something I'm just putting stuff into. The second grid is for my income replacement fund. So this is a certain amount of months of expenses, so it's sort of in case I lose my job, or I don't know, this is also something that you could use as an emergency fund. So the plan is for a certain amount in every month, a set amount. I've already planned it all out, and in sort of a pay yourself first fashion. And so because things should only be going into this account, well, actually these are two accounts, so I've put a little money jar there, and it's got 12 little spaces, and I will color them in, and usually, so that those colors and then the little dots for the graph will match the monthly theme colors that I've decided on, because I am a bit of a crazy person. But it makes it very colorful, and it's nice, and all kind of stays on theme. The third section down here is another pay yourself first category, which are my retirement contributions. Again, this is a set amount that I've already decided for the year. Every month it goes in. I've actually automated both of those transactions, so it's, same time. It should just go. So it will, this will also have a jar that I will color in exactly the same way as the income replacement fund. And I've done these little jars before, and I've done them in different colors, but I like this lighter gray. It looks a lot better for the top of the little jar. Some people will use, individual little coins, or I've used like a road map or like a board game path before. But any little thing, you just color in the thing. Makes it all worth it. So clean this side up. Then we'll start working on the right side, where the top two little sections here. One is my investments, so that is actually those are actually just my retirement accounts, but it's keeping track of the total that's actually there, so that, you know, you can just sort of see where it's going. This is just something I check at the beginning of every month, and I just write down what my accounts have in them. So just like every other grid, we get the month, and then one spot for each month below that. And I have actually decided that I did not like that lighter pink, so we're going a little bit darker. And then the second little section on the right here is going to be tax calculations. I also do the payroll at my job, so I know how to do, basically take like, oh, I've worked exactly this many hours today. I can do like the marginal calculation on about how much that is actually making me that day. So I do all these because the US tax system works on brackets. The first is whichever bracket it is, and this is in terms of my hours, because I know my hourly rate. And then the equation that I get the approximate amount. Now it's a little bit different just because of like how my state taxes work. I would actually be making a little bit more at the beginning of the year, but it's very close. It's, you know, within a couple dollars. So that's pretty nice to be like, oh, all right, we're good today. And then the final large section down at the bottom here is my minimum spend section. So I have, I do sort of the credit card game a little bit. I'm doing a little bit less this year. But this is to keep track, make sure I'm hitting my minimum spends, so I can get my intro bonuses. And this section is one that in the past I have not made large enough, and then I have also made it too large in the past. So we're giving myself, I have a fair amount of real estate here on the page. So we are going to, hopefully this will be, baby bear, just enough. But 3 columns here, date, amount, and total. So basically, the date, the amount for each, spend, and then a running total up to the minimum that I would have to spend. There are 3 sections for each of those columns. So I would just start on the first column and then move to the second and the third. So hopefully that will be enough space for all of that. So far, it's been good. But yeah, these 2 pages are pretty jam-packed. They got a lot in here, and they have a lot of what I keep my bullet journal for. So just these financial spreads. This next spread is actually related to that minimum spend spread, because these 2 pages are going to be taken up by my credit cards, because I do the credit card game thing, I have a lot of them. And I mean, I don't really keep anything on there. I pay them off pretty much immediately. But I do have a lot of them. And I think currently I have one that is not a $0 annual fee, but it will soon be turning into one with a $0 annual fee. So I need to remember to do that. I'm sure I've written it down in my bullet journal. That's what it's for. But yeah, in general, try to play the game. This is just sort of like a nice representation to have them all laid out and which ones they are. I don't think this spread is essential to have. I have a lot of this information in other places, but I think it's very pretty because it has these nice little credit card looking, things, and it has all the information about them. Each of them has a little sort of code word to them. It's usually, just an initialism. I have included, when I opened it, the limit on it, and then what the bonuses are. So, is it a, 5% for this? Is it 4 points for travel? Is it 1.5 for everything? Is it 2% for everything? Is it 3 points at a certain, location? Does it change every quarter? And so I keep track of those as well. So that's helpful. I could always just look this up on my phone in their apps every single time, but it's nice to have it all sort of written down, have their full names, and I also keep track of whether I've used them or not in each quarter. There is a possibility of, if you just don't use a credit card, that they will close it on you. So using it at least once every 6 months, maybe once a year, is usually a good rule of thumb, just to make sure that it stays open, because basically credit card companies want you to keep using it because that's how they make money. So that's just sort of a rough estimate. I can go and look at this and make sure that I have been using ones that I generally got for the intro bonus, and then really don't have, it doesn't have as good rewards as other things. I wouldn't be optimizing, but it's good for my credit to have them on there. So each of these has a little section up here, and that's where I would put the title of the credit card. Not every single one of these boxes is filled with a credit card, but there are more than half. So it was explained to me at one point that, say you have 3 apple farmers, and one of them has one really good apple tree. One of them has 10 meh apple trees, and one of them has 10 really good apple trees. Now, the guy with the bad apples, yeah, he's got not great apples. But if you're comparing the guy with 1 good apple tree and the guy with 10 good apple trees, well, you would think that the guy with 10 good apple trees is the better apple farmer. So having many, many credit cards is not necessarily a bad thing and often helps your credit. So a little counterintuitive, but that's just kind of how the game goes. I do have this extra little section up here, just sort of to brainstorm which ones I want to go get next. So those can sort of go in a little list before they join the rest of the very pretty collection of official credit cards. And this is definitely shining with my larger layout, because in previous years this layout has needed to go over 3 pages, so the fact that I can throw this on 2 is very helpful. And now we are going to move on to another spread that would have taken many more pages. So this very beginning part is everything in blue. These are my running schedules. So in 2020, I had decided to go try to run a half marathon. Well, the race got canceled, but I am still running. So I've got 3 different sort of running schedules, training schedules that I am hopefully working my way through. The first one is the big long one, and that is actually the half marathon training schedule that I've been working on forever. I'll stop running for a little while, or, I'll go somewhere, it gets hot, it gets cold, there's ice on the ground, something always comes up. So I've been working my way through this one for a little while. And it's kind of nice. I run Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning, and those are my sort of shorter runs, and then I have my long run on Sunday. And I'll do cross training on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and rest on Saturdays. And then these other 2 sections are actually, I have stolen these schedules or training schedules from the Couch to 5K series of apps. So one of them is actually, I believe it's like a faster 5K or something like that. So instead of just generally the running schedules I've found are you run, walk, a certain amount. So say you'll run for 5 minutes, walk for 1. So instead, these, to go faster, you run for a little bit, and then you run faster for a little bit, and then you run slower, and then you walk, and then you run faster. And so those schedules I have pulled from those apps. So the one on the right handed side, that is an 8-week, that's the full schedule. The one on the very bottom of the left-handed page, that is actually the last half of just the regular Couch to 5K. And I included that just because it has a section near the end of that where you're running for much longer periods of time than you actually do in the half marathon schedule. So it's definitely, it fit as well. It just, it was a good fit for that. So I'm just putting in the headers for all of these, where I include the week, what I'm doing on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you'll notice, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're a little bit skinnier because that's when I do the cross training, so I just wrote XT on all of those. Saturday is a little bit bigger, but it's my rest day, so that's all written down with rest. And then the actual details of how I should be doing my run, those are in the larger boxes in the Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday days. This purple section here is going to hold any race results that I have. I have not signed up for any races this year, but just in case, I got a couple little sections there, and I can always, put a bigger section if I decided to do a lot more races. This is something I just had last year, and it was nice because I did end up doing just a couple races, so it was nice to write it down, have it be a fish. So that will include the date, the actual race, the type of race, which mostly I do 5Ks right now, and then my total time. And then, as the last little section here, I am including my ever-present bookcase of books that I have read. And this is actually really exciting this year because in previous years I had my goal was to finish all the books that I own that I have not read yet. I am a bit of a bookworm. I have always had a bunch of books around, and so the rule was I couldn't buy any books. I couldn't take any books out from the library. I had to finish the books that were in my house. So, and I finished that. I finished that last year in 2021, and so now I get to, look at new books, and it's very exciting. So we're coloring in this little bookcase here, and we're going to fill it up with books. Another thing that's very exciting is that I've actually read, if not all of them, but those are all filled in. All those books that are in this bookshelf, they're filled in. They're either read or they're currently being read. But yeah, it's definitely nice to get back on a lot of books that I enjoy, that were, something that I've been looking forward to reading, for a while. I still kept a list of books that I was like, oh, I want to read that. I also had some books gifted to me that I then had to add on to the end of my read all the books you own goal. And I've been taking some books out from the library, using the Libby app, shout out. And it's been really nice. I've reread a bunch of books that I own that I haven't read in a while, and they're fun, they're fast. I realized why I kept them, So this bookcase got filled up and read real quick. So that's been really fun. And I actually have a whole other page in the middle of this bullet journal that I have dedicated to an even a larger book list. And it's got an even bigger bookshelf. And I also have included a very large section of TV programs and movies that I am also keeping track of, which is something I haven't done for a couple bullet journals. I've only been having this book list. So that's been really nice, and I've been coloring those in and filling those up as well. But for now, it's just a little book nook here. We've got all of these. Welcome to 2022.